Hey there, and welcome to the daily podcast where wisdom smacks us with kisses or love taps. I'm MichelleSpiva, a wisdom strengthening coach, your host, and practical priestess of wisdom. Mwah. Join us daily to gain wisdom and mental strength as we tackle innovative thinking, address emotional and behavioral life traps, and yes, provide you with some practical how to's to wrap it all up. So settle in or crank up the speed 2x, whatever gets your mental processes firing as we dive in. Stay tuned. Yay! Hey there, it's MichelleSpiva, your practical priestess of wisdom, with today's podcast of Wisdom Smack. Mwah! Today, we are going to be looking at things that we take for granted or that are all around us, but they make us feel so good. So we're going to be looking at inspiration and a hidden truth that wisdom wants to share of why you get it and how you can use it. So join me on the flip as we get into talking about how to unlock success through inspiration. It's going to be good. I'll see you on the flip. Hi there and welcome. Thank you for joining me on the flip. This is Michelle. Let's go on and get started. So today, as I said before, we're going to be unlocking some success, but we're going to be doing it through a different useful and often slept on skill of it being inspired, inspiration. So let's start off like we normally do by looking at the etymology of this word. And to inspire being the verb part of inspiration, coming from the 1300s actually, means to fill the mind, the heart, etc. with grace. Oh, yes. It also means to prompt or induce someone or something to be done. And from the old French, it's inspire, and that's actually from the 1200s. And that fed into the Latin inspire. Oh my gosh, let me slow down. Inspire means to blow into, and that's the part I wanted to get to. To inspire means to blow into, breathe upon, meaning it's figuratively meant to excite and inflame from within. So when you come down to it, inspire, part of that comes from the word where we get spirit from, meaning to breathe. And whenever you're talking about spirit or pneuma, it refers to the breath of life, the breath of the deity giving its creation life. And so inspiration is life giving, it's the breath of life. And so we are going to be talking a little bit about how to unlock success through using this breathing of inspiration of life from the great all. Okay. So you can get inspired from everything and everyone. You really can. It is not about you having to go and get it from someone who extols the values of being a guru or a high priest or whatever you want to call that station. You can get inspired by simply going outside and looking at the trees and the things. And I will say that is one of the first tangible ways people became inspired when we first started recording how we evolved. Uh, the Our ancestors would look to the heavens. They would look to the skies at night and watch the stars. They learned to plot the movements of what was outside of us. In nature, they learned to watch the migration patterns of the birds of the air and the hunting and evolutionary patterns of the predators and the prey relationship. And then the at the time it wasn't necessarily agricultural as much as it was hunter gatherer, but also understanding how to work within the the ecological system of the jungle and the terrain of the earth. And so they were inspired to learn from that and to become more successful. You guys, I know I sound like a geek, but I'm going to tell you. In the book Homo sapiens, and then there is another one that I searched too long to try to remember where I found it and I couldn't, but I'm going to tell you the gist of it. Just even reading our ability to have thought of, because we have these opposable thumbs, thought of picking up a projectile and throwing it is an inspiration from how we observe the attacks of smaller animals on larger ones to subdue them. And us picking up a spear, it took many iterations because it went from hand to hand of trying to catch like a fish or something in your hand to wanting something that was moving too fast. You know, it's hard to catch a wild boar when you're on foot. And so learning to improvise and get inspired by the things around us, we then learn to throw spears. Then after the spears, we learn to make bows and arrows to go further. After that, you can continue to look on to the progression. And I know I might be just talking about weaponry, but there's a whole bunch more, like learning to use a stick to extend your tools and implements so that you could dig in the ground without the back breakingness of trying to use your fingers and rock to try to break up ground. Instead, putting it, tying, onyx and sharpened other rocks to a stick so that you can stand, get more traction and use from your thighs to do it. Now, this is not going to be all about, our ancestors and the like. This is really about how in today's time, the wisdom smack that we want to see today is that while we have opportunity to explore our world and the newness, and it's kind of like everybody gets this jubilee, this reset where no one knows what's going to happen, but we all know that weird things are afoot. And so let's take advantage of this. There are things that we want to achieve, things that it might have not looked as good at the beginning of the year, but now all things are possible. And so we're looking at different ways to do things. Yesterday, I talked about capturing breakout success, and so today I want to dovetail off of that in a different direction to help you understand that you have some useful tools around you that will help you unlock success. All right. So now that we've established what inspire means, we can look at how, even through our hunter gatherer days, way back when we were still trying to figure out how to discover fire, we see that inspiration was always there. And the Latin word for it, I just want to say this about to inspire or inspiration. It means to influence or animate with an idea or a purpose. And so, looking at inspiration, and you take that portion of how we look at to inspire, which means it's still the same today, which means it has a lot of power. But when you focus on that part, to animate, meaning to move someone with an idea or a purpose, I was like, that sounds like motivation. So, of course, I went to motivation, and the generalized term for motivation right now means the reason or reasons one has for acting or behaving in a particular way. And it also could be the general desire or willingness for someone to do something. When I was in school and learning how to uh, do what it was that particular program required of me for public speaking, we were taught that there is no such thing as external motivation, and that you can only get this, you can only inspire people, but they must motivate themselves. And so the professor at that time was talking about how there really isn't a such thing as a motivational speaker. Instead, there are a lot of people that have a gift of breathing into someone's ability to get motivated. And I was looking at a Twitter thread, I think yesterday, and I didn't think much of it. But today, when I was considering what was the wisdom for us, I remembered that Twitter thread. And it was actually put out by author that I've touted today. I mean, not today. I've touted on the podcast in the past, and his name is James Clear, and he's the author of Atomic Habits. And so, what he said was, and I went on and found it. It took me a minute. I found it. He said the difference between motion and action is that motion is, and he gave some examples. He said, motion is when you talk to a personal trainer, research your book idea, explore different types of meditation. But then beneath that, he goes on to say, but action, oh, yes, action is doing 10 squats, writing one sentence, and meditating for 1 minute. And so he summed it up by saying, motion feels like progress, but action is progress. And then I looked at some other people who put, a little more of the same on it. Some, were saying things like don't confuse motion with with progress. And he went on to quote Alfred Monapert. I couldn't find out who that was, but if you know who it is, good for you. But like I said, this was a person who responded to what James Clear said. So whereas James Clear said motion feels like progress, this person put up this quote that says, don't confuse motion and progress. A rocking horse keeps moving, but does not make any progress. And so then another person went on to say, a small action will bring you closer to your goals than a mile of motion. And I'm going to have to diverge a little bit because actions and activities are in the same family, of course. They are set up to do stuff. And a lot of times we use words that I think probably maybe it may be semantics, but maybe we're giving them too much credit. So in this here, I can say, oh, that's really motivational. But it's not really because it's just, like wordplay, playing around with words. Because when you look at motion, our normal traditional understanding of motion is a propulsion, a forward movement, making an advancement, a process of moving, changing of places, continuous variations of position. So you can't give motion that much of a bad rap. What you can do, I think, in my limited, take on this, is that instead of giving motion such a bad rap, instead look at busy work. Using a lot of motion but not getting anywhere, like your rocking horse, like a treadmill. But think about this, because I y'all don't judge me, but my mind, gets to the point where it just, runs. And I was like, because I was thinking about the whole rocking horse thing when I said it, I was like, but you know what? You might not be going anywhere, but guess what you are doing? You are moving. And one of the things with movement brings us life. So think about it. Everybody, talks about action and motion and all this kind of stuff. And what are you actually getting done? And when it comes down to it, I have a treadmill. When I decide to get on it, I don't go anywhere. But when I get off of it, if I do it enough times, I see a result in my body. So I am achieving something. I am getting something done through motion instead of action. And, so it gets to the point where I'm like, okay, wisdom, what are you really telling me? And what happened? Because you know how you'll read something and it's like, okay, that's nice on the surface. But like I said, when I sat there and kind of like chewed on it, meditated on it a little bit, I was like, they're giving motion a bad name, a bad rep. And so going through it, it was like, remember. And I remembered that class that talked about if you are trying to be not helpful, useful, because y'all know I'm not trying to be helpful, I'm trying to be useful. If you're trying to be useful, you want to get people to be so moved by what you say or do that they do something for themselves to help themselves. And that comes from inspiration. Okay. So now that I am able to hopefully and successfully give you that argument for why we want to look at inspiration as a catalyst for getting yourself and getting others to do things that will help us. Let's go from there. Okay. So excuse me. Forgive me, guys. So I was talking with someone the other day, and we were talking about it was a writing client, and we were talking about creating different realities and world building. And I simply said that this person had the opportunity to create a world where two people could be right next to each other having different experiences. And so I wrote that down because I was like, okay, wisdom, I feel a little tingling. I don't feel like that was me. And so I wrote it down: shared reality, but different worlds. And to unlock success through inspiration is to do just that. It is to be able to still be in a shared reality where you can still see people, interact with them, and there's really nothing that has changed except for your world. And the way I'm using world this time is the world of our understanding, our philosophies, our viewpoints, the world of our minds. And inspiration is that element. Remember, it means to be blown into, to in insight and inflame. It means to inspire and to fill the mind, the heart, etc., with grace. And so as I was looking at shared reality but different worlds, I was like, wow, you can have two people listening, or let me just say, you can have a room of people listening to the same speaker or the same subject, and those who are inspired will be induced to take action and motion, movement, whatever you want to call it, and they will be inspired to do something. Whereas you'll have others who sat and listened to the same content, had the same shared reality, same shared space, but ended up in a different world where they were not inspired. They were simply, they enjoyed something, but it did not penetrate them. And I thought about, well, why does that happen? And what I came up, and not me, because I don't want to say I got this, but what I gleaned from wisdom was that inspiration is not just to make us feel good, it's not just to make us hop around. Inspiration is one of the hidden, invisible, if you will, tools that each person is given free of charge because it's graceful. It's part of grace given to us to unlock that specific lock in our lives that we need to walk through to get to the next point of what we're trying to get to. You see, the reason why the different people could be in the same room encountering the same thing, and some leave inspired and some don't, is because whatever was being said became the inspirational lock to specifically unlock what that person was supposed to get. And when I looked at it that way, I was like, oh my gosh. And it is, to me, right in keeping with the I don't want to call it esoterical understandings of creativity that I had to look at during my graduate studies and the like. But what I will say is this: is that each person is a creative agent a creative automaton with agency over their own lives. And so inspirations are not blanket. It doesn't mean that one person is better than the other if they hear something or encounter something and one gets inspired and the other doesn't. It just simply means that that particular moment, piece, person, or or event or whatever it was, it did its job to impact the person that it was supposed to. So I said all of that to say, to get to this point, that for you at this particular time, when you don't have so many inputs vying for your attention, take the opportunity to start fine tuning and sensitizing yourself to what inspires you. Whether it's a meme or a turn of a phrase that someone says, a color, an event, or an approach, a different way of looking at something. If you feel inspired, and to feel inspired means that your heart, your mind, and everything about you gets excited because now you have grace. And the way I like to look at grace, I'm not going to give y'all another definition. I'm just going to tell it to you the way I see it and I feel it. The way I always looked at grace is a suspension of disbelief. It is that anti gravity that you need to be weightless to get above the heaviness of your life. It is that special dispensation or favor that you receive to be able to do something that you've never been able to do before on your own. And because of that, and because inspiration is tied to grace, that means that you have a lot of grace every day that you need to be gathering up. I wrote this one down. There was Candy Burris, who just recently won Mass Singer. Congratulations to her. And she and her husband, Tim, I think his name is, they were doing a Instagram story about a week ago. And she said she got this from MC Light. And that was that due to the coronavirus time, that there has been grace, special dispensation afforded to everyone who, might be impacted by the COVID-19 impact, to get a little bit of financial grace, if you will. But you have to call. So she was saying that she was like, no, I'm not going to do that. And she even says that MC Light, famous rapper, legendary rapper MC Light, reminded her. She says, you know what? When grace is afforded to you, be gracious and accept it. And she said when she heard her say that, guess what? She got inspired. Because she was infused with this new understanding of the grace that was being afforded. She contacted the different mortgages and the car places and all of these things because she's got businesses. I know in Atlanta here, she actually has Old Lady Gang restaurants and some other things as well. And so she was able to get grace for the mortgage payments and the car notes and all of the things for personal and business. And she was gracious enough to get on to a Instagram Live to share with other people to inspire them to go and make use of the grace. And I looked at all the comments and everybody was like, oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. This means so much. You're so humble to tell us this. And she, she would respond a little bit. And sometimes she would say like, I don't know if it's grace. I'm just trying to do what I can, because grace was afforded to me by MC Light to remind me to go out and do it. And so I look at how every day we are trying to find our new normal, find our levels, find where we fit in this place, how everything will shake out. And I am loving how wisdom is just sticking with us. She is not cut and run. She is a ride or die kind of chick. And she is like, honey bun, I need you to know anything that you receive inspiration from, it is for a reason. It is to unlock grace so that you can do what you are inspired to do in that moment. And because of that, wisdom wants us to know that inspiration is a key that unlocks more of your ability to gain success. Now, whatever success is for you, That's what it is. It could be success to hit a certain goal, whether it be weight, love, or money, or it could be success to have the grace to finish a project that you don't want to do or that you don't see a way of how to make it through. It could be whatever it means for you to obtain that lofty goal, obtain that goal that is going to take a little bit and that's going to have some failures along the way. But that is what you find when you're able to activate your motivation, activate your emotion and your action, however you want to look at those things, so that you're able to do what it is that you need to do to get what it is that you need to get. I am reminded that each time I think about the grace that we all are afforded and how unique and specific it is to each one of us, I shake my head with the enormity of the wonder of it all. Let me ask you, when's the last time you felt inspired? And what did you do with that inspiration? I'm going to ask you to also look for it, search for it, because what you seek, you will find. What you look for, you will get. The questions you pose, you will get answers. And understand, just even from the power of the meaning of the word, since the 1200s, we know that inspire means to be filled in your heart and mind with grace. It means to be breathed into from a powerful source to activate you to be able to get what it is you're trying to get. So do not squander your inspirations. If you get inspired and you see someone doing something funny on social media, follow the inspiration. What is it inspiring you to do? Because inspiration does get you activated to move in motion, to act, to be motivated, to continue to do it. It gives you a jolt. Don't waste these inspirations. Don't waste these little dispensations of grace that give you a buff. Oh my gosh, a buff. Like if you play games, you get a little extra oomph because they're all around us. And wisdom is saying, I'm just trying to get you to open up your eyes so that you can see all the wonderfulness, not even just possibilities, but real things that are all around you so that you can see your life in a bigger and a better way. So, in my last few minutes that I have, this is what I want to say. Don't concern yourself with if somebody else is inspired to do something that you're not, because that simply means that inspiration was their key for their specific thing. But likewise, don't let anybody stop you if you're inspired to do something and they're not. Inspiration is not a one size fits all. It is very specific and dialed down to the Lord, let me not say that word. Infinitesimal, thank you. Infinitesimal amount of numbers or measurements to specifically fit your needs, your life, and your way. And so when mercy and grace have been extended to you, you hold on to them and you treat them like the treasure that they are, because not not for nothing. There are a lot of things that are happening for us that are not screaming. They're not saying, hey, look at me. Hey, check me out. Hey, you should do this. They're very subtle. But when you get the time like we have right now, to be able to slow it down enough, we should be able to lock into the subtleties of life. We should be able to listen to the whispers. We should be able to even be okay with hearing things that might not sound familiar or might not make sense, but yet and still, we need to know that they're there. I could tell you, a story about. It was so quiet, and my house was settling, and I was like, "Oh, what's that?" But it's because I'm finally getting to the point where I'm finding my rhythm in this new world, and I like it. I like who I'm becoming. I'm liking how I can hear the small, still voice that speaks wisdom and makes sense of this world, and starts to show me, and hopefully you, that this new world is beautiful in its own way. And it might not resemble what you're used to, but it ain't too shabby. So, in the last minute that I have, this is what I want to encourage you to do. I want you to remember that you are inspired and you're inspiring. And when you have something that gets you excited and gives you those thrills, don't just let it fizzle out. Follow the source. Get the motivation you need to unlock that grace that it is affording you to do something that you probably have not been able to do before. And appreciate the boon and the boost of the lightheartedness in your mind that you get from that inspiration. Don't let anybody talk you down. Don't let anybody steal that joy. And don't let anybody try to make you second guess that you didn't get your inspiration because it's yours. It's like joy. The world didn't give it to you, and the world can't take it away. So, guess what, y'all? Yes, I can't believe it. Our time has already come to an end. What I'm going to encourage you to do is I'm going to encourage you to make some notes and be on the lookout. Just even give yourself a day or maybe three to look for inspiration all around you. And then take that inspiration and get activated to follow it through. And if you would, send me a message of what it unlocked for you, what new levels, new skills, new goals, new treasures you got by just following your inspiration. All right, so guess what? Yes, this has been MichelleSpiva, your practical priestess of wisdom, with today's podcast of Wisdom Smack. Mwah. Check out the show notes, like, share, subscribe, and thank you for following me. And because this is a daily podcast, I am going to see you tomorrow. Bye. And that's going to do it for today's podcast of Wisdom Smack with MichelleSpiva. If you like this podcast, please help us get the word out. Like, comment, subscribe, and even share. And if you really like it, please help us continue to get the word out by considering using this show's link for Amazon. So when you want to go to Amazon and you do all of your general shopping, please use MichelleSpiva.com/AMZ. It's simple as that. It doesn't cost you anything extra, and this show might receive a little bit of commission that will go towards helping to further get these episodes out to you and to others. So thank you so much for listening. This has been MichelleSpiva with Wisdom Smack. Bye.